Hello and welcome to a special Allot webinar dedicated to the optimizing the network traffic in challenging times. I'm Seth Greenberg, Director of Corporate Communications at Allot, and I'll be your host for today's webinar. Before we get started, let me take the opportunity to wish you all well in these difficult times. I'm hosting from home, and I'm sure many of you are joining us from your work from home offices as well. I think we're basically fortunate to all be involved in the communications ecosystem. It feels more important than ever for remote work, remote learning, remote entertainment, and more. And if you'll pardon the advertisement, I encourage you to visit the Allot website blog section to read what we've posted about how you can keep up with the corona-driven bandwidth demand. Before we get started, I've got some housekeeping before I turn it over to Eduardo. So today's webinar is being recorded, and we will share a link to the recording with you after the event is complete. You can find it on allot.com. We welcome you to revisit the content yourself and share it with colleagues. We also invite your comments and questions. Please look at the Q&A chat box on your screen. If you think of a question for Eduardo at any point, just type it there, and we'll address it either during or right after the discussion. Finally, there are widgets at the bottom of the screen giving you easy access to related content, and there's a Contact Us button there as well. So, as many employees are forced to work from home during this international crisis resulting from COVID-19, networks are not always tailored or equipped to keep up. They don't keep up with the dramatic increase in traffic. Employees today are using a mix of business-critical apps like Salesforce, for example, or Salesforce.com, and non-critical apps such as YouTube for e-learning, for example, as they navigate the current situation. However, all this traffic goes through the same VPN company-wide with as a direct effect it's being, the network is congested. During this webinar, our Global Presales Director, Euardo Ramirez, will explain what the challenges of the enterprise are in this new situation and how Allot can help. So, Eduardo, please tell us, have you seen a change in enterprise requests since the situation started at the beginning of the year?
Oh, thank you, everybody, and thank you, Seth, for this wonderful introduction. Well, indeed, actually, these are new circumstances for many amongst us, and actually have seen that we find ourselves not only working from home, but also I've seen that we are taking other roles, as the family is actually right with us. I don't know if that happens with you, but with me, that's the case. This does mean we see different challenges arising from enterprises that we do feel Allot can help with. So let's see the enterprise challenges in a new reality in a more detail. This is what I want to start the conversation with. So actually our customers are telling me that they have seen increased remote connections. So actually, well, as you are aware of, well, today multiple governments around the world are imposing social distancing, or as you know it, confinement, as the primary measure to slow down this COVID-19. So employees, actually, they are finding themselves working from home and with all the challenges that come with it. Okay, the second thing they have been talking to me is actually they have seen an evolution of the user behavior as employees are juggling multiple roles.
Well, sure. Who's not finding their kids' homework on their laptops these days?
Of course we do, and without necessarily disconnecting from the work VPN network. So we have seen that work and family user behavior is going through a change as well. And employees, I've seen that they are working from home, and it's inevitably the barrier between work and private, I see that it's slightly to get blurred. So employees are mixing, well, logging data into Salesforce, for instance, with finding a math tutorial on YouTube for their kids without logging in and out while using the same VPN connection. Well, I know that there are a lot of single parents, but for the parents, well, this is their case. So this is one of the things that the customers are talking, those are the challenges they are sharing with me. So also we have seen prioritized business critical applications. So what they have seen is that applications are competing for priority. Remote users want to have access to the resources they normally have at the speed they are used to. And, well, I think that companies want to ensure the same experience and the same satisfaction. So that's one of the challenges they are talking to me. And last but not least, they have been telling that, well, the VPN use has shifted. And what they're saying is that they used to have a sporadic use. So what does it mean? It means that they had 1 day a week per employer connecting to the VPN to the new normal. So what is the new normal? Meaning that the daily use went up to 100% of the company's workforce. So now, what they are telling me is that, well, in addition to buying more VPN licenses, companies actually find themselves searching to optimize the new traffic load. Okay. So in order to optimize this network load, the traffic management has never been so critical, and actually Allot is being here to help. And today I wanted to share with you a story of a partnership between a customer in need and Allot over the course of the last 2 weeks. So please meet Fred. So, well, I know this is the same character I normally use when my customers don't want to share their names. So today, this special customer, I will call him Fred. So I just wanted to share with you their story and what we have been doing, what we have done with him the last 2 weeks. So just as a background, he's the IT manager of a multinational bank in the EMEA region, where I'm actually located. And actually, in this current situation, the majority of the company suddenly has to work from home instead of what they used to, so office-based, sorry. So Fred found that well, they had several issues about applications not performing. Actually, he was saying that the employees were not satisfied with the experience, and Fred received a lot of complaints. So in order to find a solution, they turned to Allot as our company, and his company has been, well, especially Allot, has been a trusted advisor for multiple years. So in the next slide, I would like to show you the steps we have implemented in order to assist Fred with the mentioned issues that he had.
Oh, spoiler alerts. He's going to be happy, right?
Oh, let's find out. Next slide, please. Okay, so now, the whole idea of the webinar today is that we wanted to explain to you what was the VPN rollout journey. So actually, when Fred's colleagues work from home, they all connect to the company's VPN network, and they are, in order to keep the traffic secure, of course, but they also want to give access to the local resources, applications, and sometimes, well, in their case, they also use the same company internet connection. So, as I said before, with this sudden surge in traffic, the VPN for him became overloaded, causing issues. So, as I mentioned, well, the amount of employees connected at the same time, that was not the only change, but we saw, and they confirmed, the fact that the user behavior changed, and the difference between work and private started really to be blurred. So as a first step before the complete VPN rollout, so what we did, so the Allot pre-sales team gave free consulting services to Fred, and the first thing we did was to map the bank requirements to the business priorities, and we recommended the suitable VPN policy. We will go through the details, but then afterwards, not just we did the policy recommendation, but actually we monitored closely during the following week and then verified that the recommended changes help. So let's take a little bit, let's zoom in a little bit about the different steps that we follow. So actually, as part of as I mentioned, since we have a long-term relationship, we start doing the consulting services, and the very first thing we did was that each type of the traffic that runs over the bank has its own inherent the quality of service or quality of experience requirements. So what we did is to help Fred analyze the network traffic on the basis of these two parameters. So if the applications, if they are delay sensitive or they are business critical applications, and then we developed and understand how we could prioritize its network. So just to put things in perspective, what we did is that just because the content of certain data is important to the bank, it doesn't mean that it has to go through the network quickly. So let me just give you an example. For instance, if you send an email to your boss, okay, to request a salary increase, well, you know, although the content of the email is very important, well, it doesn't need to go through the network at real-time speed. I know. If your boss reads the email 15 seconds later, it will not affect the communication. But, well, this is a typical example, of course. But on the other hand, if in the bank of Fred, if the financial analysts are having a team video chat over Zoom, and the sound and video feeds, well, you know, that must go through the network at light speeds, if there is a delay on the communication, well, the call will be inaudible. So,
It's funny that you mentioned Zoom. I just read an article that Zoom downloads are exploding with everyone working from home.
Oh, hold that thought. I will talk about that actually in my next slide.
Oh,
so,
good.
Thanks. That's a good interaction, Seth. So, well, let's check the particular needs they had with Zoom. So, as you mentioned, Seth, well, Zoom downloads exploded while people start working from home. But Fred's bank, as like, well, if any other companies, they have been using Zoom, and you know, to keep face-to-face interaction, both with the internal employees or external clients. And maybe you have seen Zoom for team meetings, but also they have been using the Zooms for demos, or they have the all-hands call with the senior leadership of the whole company. And what do you know? I have seen also that they are using Zoom for virtual schooling, even gym classes.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure none of us have ever done more virtual meditation or yoga or mindfulness classes than we're doing now.
I know, right? But the fact that we are turning into video applications for multiple reasons, and actually this goes always, it has to be flawless, but I know many of you, in some way or another, have been familiar with what we call conference call bingo. So while there are some things we cannot help, like, well, random background sounds, your dogs barking, and so on, well, actually, we do have ways to improve your experience. So this is why we are here to help Fred. And doing so, we can actually even distinguish between the Zoom's meeting from your company, that is business critical, and we can compare with the Zoom's meeting from the school for the gym class. Okay. So, well, that sounds like a great feature. Huh? So, well, this is one of the things we help Fred with. So, now that we understand and we start with the consultant services, we do the mapping between the quality of service and quality of experience between business critical applications and not business critical applications. Then what we did next was to recommend the first classifying the network of the typical VPN user. So once we had the clear view of the network, actually we could analyze it over the time, and the most interesting thing is that we started spotting trends and new pattern behaviors. That's what I just mentioned before. So actually, once we recommended this policy, well, it gave us a better understanding of the VPN traffic, and actually we could see which applications were actually consuming most of the traffic. And second, once we had this distinguished, we could apply different quality of service or quality of experience to the different type of traffic. So if we will not be able to identify this, it will not be possible to deploy quality of service. And actually, one of the things I wanted to explain here is that, we do that using dynamic policies, and even though, in Fred's Bank, so I just want to give you a quick, let's say, to understand the impact or how we help them here, is that they had more or less 10,000 employees that suddenly they were connecting to their company's VPN. So what does it mean? It means that per single employee inside, we apply different rules per user. So, for instance, if you see, once a user connects, we will give more priority to Zoom, to the web application banking. We can limit YouTube. We will discuss that later, and so on. But as you can see, in average, we have like 5 specific rules per user. And if you multiply 10,000 users that are connected sometimes at the same time, given the time of the day, plus the 5 rules, we can easily have more or less 50,000 rules. And actually, for Allot, even though we can create a single rule per user, a typical appliance can manage hundreds of thousands of users. So actually, that was one of the things that they highlight. It was great about our solution. So now, I mentioned a little bit that per user, we had a different rules. And what does it mean? Why we did that? Because we wanted to ensure and protect the service and the application delivery based on the business critical application. So while having a single dedicated rule per user, we were able to prioritize and, most important, accelerate the critical and time-sensitive applications, as I mentioned, like Zoom, the web banking applications. Actually, with our technology, we were able to limit the video streaming resolution. So, for instance, for YouTube, instead of, as I mentioned before, since the private and work traffic blurs, what does it mean? It means that none of us disconnects, disconnects from the VPN while doing some homework or some yoga, so you are using YouTube, and actually you don't need to actually create or overload the overall traffic on the company side just because you want to stream high-resolution YouTube, but actually we will able to limit the time, the resolution per user. Okay, so that's one of a very interesting features, and also we were able to limit non-time sensitive related applications. So let's have a look of actually what we did. Okay, so here, as part of the consulting services, so that's actually, first of all, what we did. So we were able to recommend, so to map the business critical applications or the business needs to the rules they need. Then we implement the changes, okay? But actually, as part of this the free consulting services, the pre-sales team, they connect, monitor close the network, and verify the recommended changes. Okay, so what does it mean? So from the visibility and application usage perspective, we could see, as you can see in this graph, that before applying the priorities and acceleration rules, for instance, the email traffic like Lotus Notes, it was one of the applications taking most of the bandwidth. So why I am showing you this is just to relate to the comment I sent before. So just taking the joke aside, if you send an email, okay, and your boss or your colleagues read the email 10 seconds later, it will not affect the experience. But what we have seen is that Lotus Notes, or this email traffic, was taking most of the bandwidth. So what we did is just, as I said, since this is not time-sensitive application, one of the rules or one of the policies we applied was to limit this kind of traffic. And actually, we could see that for each VPN user, okay, and we compare the traffic evolution after applying these policies. Actually, this freed some more resources. So what does it mean? It means that now that the email traffic was not taking the whole capacity of each user, actually we can see that other applications like, we have some SMB file transfer that they had in the company, or as I said, the HTTPS banking application, now suddenly it had more space, and actually it made the difference. But of course, we did not only limit, as you saw before in the previous slide, with the policies, we just didn't limit email, but actually for banking applications, we accelerate the traffic. So let's see a little bit more of these results. So, actually, yeah?
Yeah, this looks like Morse code to me. What are we looking at?
Oh, so actually, thanks for the comment. So, well, what I was mentioning before, so we accelerate the traffic. But actually, here I'm going to show you the results from the previous week compared to the current situation. So, fortunately, we had enough data to compare the previous situation with the results today. So, we can now compare the user satisfaction without the changes with the user satisfaction today. So actually what I'm showing you here, I know that looks like a Morse code, but actually what we are seeing is the user satisfaction that is represented with these dots. So each dot represents the level of satisfaction at different moments during the week. So let me explain. In a simple terms, when you see on the graph a dot that it comes with a number like 1 to 5, that means that 1 is the user experience, and that means that it's having bad experience. If you see that is the dot in red, if you see a dot in green, so meaning that it comes with the number 5, that means that the user satisfaction for a specific banking application, because we were measuring actually the banking application app, that they were complaining that it was slow, we can measure if when this specific user was going to the banking app, if they were having good experience or bad experience. So what does it mean? Bad experience, so in terms of retransmissions, latency, that means that every time they try to do a transaction, it took them forever, okay? So meaning that this is a real-time application, and for them, the experience, if is not reactive enough or fast enough, the experience is bad, okay? So as you can see, if we just map the Morse code, as you said, into a simple line from Monday to Friday, we can see that actually in average, they were having an okay experience, okay? Some days they had like poor experience, not bad, but let's say poor experience, and the others like okay. So in average, they were having an okay experience. So the good thing is that we will actually able to compare once we accelerate and prioritize the banking web applications. We could compare the results of the situation today. So here we can see the week after. So this is what we called control VPN rollout. So 1 week we follow the VPN users, then we apply the changes, and then we see if the changes held. So actually, what we can see here is that next week, the banking app, or the experience while the user was using this specific banking app, it was having an excellent experience. Not even very good. Actually, it was 5 all week, Monday to Friday. Okay, well, maybe there was one day that it went a little bit down to 4, but actually we could show the the experience result. So now, actually, well, you will wonder. So, but could you please tell us, well, this is what Fred asked us, if when they were going to do the complete rollout, so if we could do it in a controlled way. This is what I mentioned before. So what does it mean? It means that it was needed to clearly understand the before and after situation. Okay? So this is because sometimes when you enable, let's say, the acceleration or the prioritization of our solution, then the most important part is to compare with something. Okay? So they said, okay, you know what? Just for the peace of mind, I want to see the before and after, okay? So actually what we proposed was the following. We said, okay, you know what, Fred? We are going to leave some VPN users without any rules, without any quality of service, without quality of experience, and actually let's see and compare the results. So actually this is what we call a control environment. So meaning that for the complete rollout, actually, we left systematically, in order to show the results, some users without any changes, to see actually if they will just be excellent all the time or not. But surprisingly enough, actually, we could see that the users without the quality of experience or quality of service rules were not showing the same excellent results as the rest. So actually, we could see, well, not definitely, but we could see that actually with applying the changes, we help those users and give the peace of mind Fred wanted it. Okay? So, actually, as you saw in the previous slide, today, Fred is in a better shape than before. And, well, after carefully monitoring, Allot actually was able to help him and his company. And we actually offered him 2 months of software bandwidth expansion with no further obligation. So, actually, we are very pleased to have been able to strengthen our partnership because we are in this together. And to everybody that is now connected to this webinar, I want to tell you that we want to do the same to every single customer that we have. Okay, so what does it mean? It means that if you think Allot, well, since we are here to help, so what we want not just to give you the expansion, but we want to be a close partner with you. So what does it mean? It means that we want to do, again, consulting services. So the pre-sales team will connect, will assess, we'll do a quick audit to understand if which applications are good, having bad experience, good experience, to map the business needs to the rules. Then we will help the customer apply the policies. Then afterwards we will monitor and check if the recommended changes help. It's just not to do a temporary expansion. Okay, that's good. There is no obligation, but we want to actually give you value. So what does it mean? It means that we will help you in the rollout process because here we are here to help. Okay?
And thanks for sharing that, Eduardo. It's good to see that we can help out our loyal customers this way while we're all settling into this new way of conducting business. So as you said, we're all in this together, and Allot is there to help.
Great. So, well, in the next slide, actually, I will share with you our set of products, how we can help on your respective companies like Fred. So, like somebody will say, where the secret ingredients are together that are here to help. Okay, so just to give you an overview, this is very important to understand, is that we have seen networks become more complex with many devices. We have seen multiple applications, and of course, this creates a demand for delivery assurance of business applications. So. Second, we have seen in many companies that they are doing infrastructure changes, such as transformation to SD-WAN. Okay, they are adding new devices, and actually these projects are expensive overwhelming, but many times are really not enough to solve the traffic issues. So actually, this is why we designed the traffic intelligence and assurance solution for the enterprise. So what does it mean? It means that even though the companies nowadays are, as I said, they are doing the infrastructure changes, they are replacing the connectivity, the one connectivity from MPLS to SD-WAN. Actually, they are asking Allot to be complementary to the SD-WAN solutions. Okay, so actually from a single point of view, that is the central location with the same appliance, we can actually help them with the SD-WAN rollout. We can help them with the internet when they connect, so the VPN users connect through the internet link. As well, we can give them visibility on the data center. So actually everything from a centralized managed solution. Okay, so actually what we are giving to our customers, so we can see what is running on the network, as I mentioned, prioritize applications, and actually prevent network resources for personal use. Okay, so in order to do this, actually, in order to answer these challenges that I've been mentioning to you, Allot, and of course, as you know, Allot by now, we have 3 solution domains: the C, control, and secure. So what actually will help enterprises first with the visibility part to give the real-time and historical application user and network analytics, okay? So what they will do, and what is more important, is that actually with these 3 pillars, the philosophy is that you cannot control and secure what you can't see. So the very first thing you need is to have the visibility to understand just the user behavior, as I show you in the example we had with Fred before. But, okay, now that we understand the behavior of the users, the applications, actually, you have the tools to measure the network SLAs that enterprises have with the users. You can have a very advanced quality of experience scoring, as I showed you before. And they can also use this tool, the visibility, for planning and troubleshooting. So now that we have the visibility, that we understand the network behavior, we can control. So what we do? So we can do application control, traffic management, but as I mentioned before, a greatest feature that we have is that with the same platform on the centralized location, we can do traffic acceleration. Okay, we don't need to have a 2-leg deployment to do it. In order to do it, as you can see, we can do it even with the VPN users. With one centralized appliance, we can do the acceleration, so we can actually assure the application's delivery to meet the SLAs that companies signed with internal or external users, and of course, to maximize the utilization and prevent congestion, okay? And then, again, as you may know, as a value-added service, we can actually, once we have we lead with the visibility and control, and then once we have that, we can help and give an extra layer of security in the network. So we can, we can protect the network infrastructure, so for incoming or outgoing denial of service attacks, and then we can also protect the users. So, okay, so just let me go quickly through the different domains, and afterwards, so this is our secret formula. So then we can see how with these 3 solution domains we can help customers like Fred. So afterwards, if you have any questions, just let me know. Okay, so the very first solution domain is, as I mentioned before, is what we call the visibility. Okay, so it's very important to understand that, well, as I highlighted before, so you cannot control and secure which you can't see. Okay, so what we have, and as you know, what we have with our solution and our assurance and network intelligence platform. So, your knowledge is as good as your data. So what does it mean? It means that through the network, you have not just you cannot just measure the packets in, packets out, or the bandwidth in, bandwidth out, because, well, you can get this information from any networking device. So, but the most important is to know that the network DNA is actually huge. So what does it mean? It means that you need to collect all the time, and to maintain this visibility, you can connect everything all the time. So actually, as you know, we are going to give extra dimensions, not just to understand, okay, which is how much traffic goes to my network, but we can, they say, divide it in different dimensions. Okay, so once we integrate with Active Directory or Radius or DHCP or, well, any other SOAP interface, actually what we do, or REST API interface, what we can do is to have the visibility per user. So in this case, instead of showing reports just for single IPs, we can have the visibility per user. And why this is important? Because inside an organization, for instance, like Fred's Bank, you have different users and different needs. They are using the same internet connection, but maybe once we know the user and we know that, oh, this user profile belongs to the human resources department, okay, so now that we have this visibility from this dimension specifically, we know that, okay, now this user that goes from human resources, they have to access specific applications or specific content, like they need to go to LinkedIn or they need to go to YouTube, because that's what they do, okay? But again, if I know that the other user, the user X, belongs to the security post department, so it's a different profile, okay? So now that we know the user, we know the profile to which department it belongs to, so now we know, okay, now this user belongs to the security department, so the physical security of the building, so actually they don't need to go to Facebook or YouTube all day. They need to have the best experience on the video surveillance traffic. Okay, so that's why it's important to start seeing the DNA of the network from different dimensions. Okay, so then it's important to understand who is the user, what is the profile. Okay, of course we understand the applications, we understand the content, but I guess one of the dimensions that I like most when we are doing or we are in this business together is to understand if the users are happy or not. So this is what we call quality of experience. Okay, so in order to get these different dimensions, well, we have different capabilities. Okay, so what you do in order to get visibility in real time, so we have a 5-second sample ratio in order to get traffic on real time, okay? But also, well, we can use that for troubleshooting, but we have specialized dashboards that actually will give you this visibility or help you understand what the users are doing. So in this case, this is the kind of dashboards that, for instance, Fred told me before this sudden search on VPN user traffic. They actually double the internet bandwidth. So he said, but Eduardo, we double the internet bandwidth, but I still get the same complaints. So why? So, well, the answer is let's say we can help that very easily, because when you get and you do a high-level overview of what is going on, so in this case, when you see the circles in blue are actually representing the categories of applications. So and the hexagons in yellow, they represent typically the applications inside these categories. So, well, as you can see, streaming applications is one of the categories that actually is taking most of the bandwidth. And, well, as you can see, well, the usual suspects there, YouTube, Netflix, or streaming. So what they do, so the more bandwidth you have, the more greedy they are. Meaning that if these kind of applications, they understand that you have better conditions, they are going to stream the videos in even a higher quality of video. So that translates in taking more of the resources. So actually, with this overview, they say, okay, Fred told me, okay, so we just double the bandwidth, so my customers have a very good experience going to Netflix. So, well, now you understand that there are some things that have to be taken in place in order to improve the experience with what you have without the need to spend more money on network expansions, okay? Because that relates on, okay, now you need to double the size of your firewall or the core switch, etc., etc. And then, well, what we are going to do is that actually we can help you, let's say, slow down this investment, okay? So this is, even with this typical network dashboard, we can do it, okay? But of course, we have the typical reports where if you have different remote offices, you can have the overview per remote office and understand, okay, I can filter for one specific remote office or a specific VPN user. It depends how you divide the network in logical pieces, and actually you can understand the application's performance, meaning how well this performance are doing based on the SLAs that you have. So for instance, the banking application should have the best performance. So what is the SLA of this application? Means that actually the threat needs to be sure that this application has the excellent or the best experience among the users, okay? But, for instance, if you have recreational traffic, that's the one that doesn't need to have good experience. So you can create policies, or you should deprioritize this traffic and not accelerate the traffic, okay? But then you can have this kind of overview per different remote offices. So now that we have the clear understanding of the intelligence of the network, so your knowledge is as good as your data. So now that we understand what is going on, we can control. So as I mentioned before, on how we can do the control part. So well, this is just an example of the light interface to do control or to do controlling policies. That is part of our multi-tenant self-service remote portal. So once you connect to this, well, it's literally as I just mentioned before. So once you divide the network in logical pieces, you can create easily a specific rule per parts of the network. So if it's internet, if it's a VPN user, or if it's the one, actually, you can just create a policy as right-click, you insert a new policy. Then, for instance, in this case, as I mentioned before, for them, for Fred, case, Netflix was taking most of the bandwidth. So what we do, so right-click, create a policy all the time for all the users during business hours, working business hours. We just block Netflix, okay? If we see that there is some unusual traffic that should not go through the network, for instance, cryptojacking, because maybe there are some users that got, they had a vulnerability and someone installed a crypto mining software. So actually, we can understand if this traffic goes through the network, that it should not be there. So that actually we with our secret use and technology, we can understand if these applications that should not be in the network are generating traffic, and we can help their security policies, okay? So now that I am talking about that, so what is the last solution domain in our architecture? So is the security part. So what we are doing, we are saying that with the same technology, with the same appliances, actually we can help to protect the network. Okay, so now that we understand what is going on, we control the traffic, we improve the experience. Actually, at the end, as a value-added service, we can protect the network against the denial of service attacks, incoming and outgoing. And actually, this is the part that I wanted to just mention here. We found that actually in the latest trends within our customers is that actually the attacks that you see going to the network are actually not coming from the external sources. Actually, they are coming from internal ones. So either the users are misbehaving because they have unknown vulnerabilities and they start generating a lot of connections, creating denial of service, or maybe some hosts are compromised and they are doing attacks from the internal side where there is no protection at all. So actually, what we are helping our customers is to protect against denial of service attacks from incoming network for incoming hosts. So, well, this is what I wanted to explain to you. So, well, actually, you can understand if the attacks are coming from internal or the external side. Actually, typical technologies will just, when there is an attack, then there is no extra protection. So what we are saying is that with our technology, since we are able to assure the performance and give network intelligence, the question here is not when, is if you are going to be attacked, but actually the question is more when. So since we don't know exactly when the customers can be attacked from internal sources or external sources, so actually what we are doing is to protect the infrastructure all the time, meaning that with the network intelligence, the critical applications could be networking applications or business critical applications. We are going to protect them all the time. And if there is an attack from internal hosts or external hosts, okay, the important network assets are protected all the time. And then if we detect an anomaly, we will actually do the normal mitigation, detection and mitigation without affecting the resource. Okay, so well, this is just to give you a quick summary of the different solution domains. And the network intelligence, as a summary, is to help you see, control, and secure the IT infrastructure. So as we saw today, we can protect the VPN users, but also we can prioritize the business critical applications with quality of experience, and you saw the multi-tier quality of experience, quality of service configuration that we have. So actually you can create different profiles to optimize the different resources. And actually, I just want you to remember that Allot is here to help. We released today a collateral that you can download. It's a PDF file that you can download, and actually you can see exactly, we'll explain exactly what I explained to you today. So actually you can share that with your customers. Seth, thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, Eduardo. That was fantastic. I learned a lot, and I hope everybody else who joined us here today did as well. Thank you all for coming. I hope the webinar was helpful in explaining some of the ways that you can solve the issues that Eduardo brought up, and especially during these difficult times. We need to have more ways of taking control, especially of our network. So I know we have some questions. Eduardo, did you want to take a look at some of those questions?
Sure. So
down in the Q&A.
Down in the Q&A. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure we'll get to all of them, but...
Okay, so no, but the whole idea is that we had different questions. So we have Mustafa ask if he can ask a question. Yes, you can ask a question. Yes. So once you type the question, I will answer it for you. So now we have Jafik Mokhtar from 3F company, that it says that after Allot detected some inappropriate or malware, how Allot alert network admin, email, or some alert in Allot software. So, well, here, it's interesting that you mentioned that. Actually, once we detect an anomaly or inappropriate behavior, we have different ways to prevent, to actually let the network admin there was an issue. So, as you mentioned before, we have the email as a main one of the ways to do it, but actually we can send different traps using SNMP, using syslog, or actually we can integrate with different systems. So if there is a CM on place, we can integrate with that, and then we can integrate with the full alert system on the company that you have. Now, Dave from Trends and Technology asks, since VPN traffic is encrypted, how Allot can see and apply policies per user? So, well, actually, this is a typical question that we have seen from several customers, is that actually the VPN traffic, when it arrives to the to the network, to the company's network, actually they normally goes to the VPN concentrator. So actually that's the same if you are familiar with SD-WAN. SD-WAN also creates a VPN tunnel, but when the traffic arrives to the network, we place a lot after the encryption. So what does it mean? It means that when we see the traffic, we see the clear traffic. So it's just as a matter of understand where we are going to place a lot, because once the traffic is decrypted, this is where actually we have all the visibility. Then when the traffic goes to internet or where the traffic goes to internal resources. So it doesn't matter if it's VPN traffic encrypted or SD-WAN that creates a VPN tunnel. Actually, Allot can see their traffic and do the optimization I showed to you. So now, Hyacinth from Solutech asks, hello, I'm from Symantec Packet Shaper World. Is it possible to allocate bandwidth dynamically? Yes, indeed. We are actually, we can allocate the bandwidth dynamically. So, for instance, what are the principles that we have here? You can do quality of service, and when you create a maximum policy or you specify a minimum, so those are the things that are allocated first. So you can limit the traffic. You can actually guarantee a minimum bandwidth, but the rest, or you can allocate the bandwidth based on different priorities. So yes, you can do it. Now, Siafik also has another question. So will Allot can see what users are streaming? So it depends. It depends. Well, you know that we cannot see inside, or we can see that people are going to YouTube or going to Dailymotion, and if it's encrypted traffic, of course, we cannot see it. But if there is some streaming sites that are using plain HTTP, well, that is not the majority nowadays, well, we can actually see it. So another question, it's how does Allot solution intelligently detect network congestion due to YouTube example and limit the usage to minimum requirement and prioritize critical applications along the way? So actually, this is how we do it with the visibility that we have. So what it means, network intelligence, actually we can understand if there is a congestion, meaning that we understand where are the based on the quality of experience or the retransmissions or the latency, we can understand if the critical applications that we have signed, well, or the network admins have signed an SLA. So if they say, okay, this banking application should have higher priority, if we see that the experience is degrading, we can actually understand why. And if it's because YouTube is taking most of the bandwidth, actually we can dynamically limit the resolution per video stream per user. So this is one of the nicest things of Allot. Now we have, again, more questions. Let me go. In Malaysia, do you have a reference in government user and telco user? If I can, I know. Of course, we do. This is the bread and butter from Allot. Governments are one of our main verticals. And, of course, well, today you are talking about this is a webinar focused on the enterprise, but telco users, we have plenty, because this is let's say, today I discussed the enterprise business unit, but we have a dedicated business unit for the service providers. That was the webinar we had 1 hour before. But could you please, Nelly from BC Telecom, could you please write your email so we can contact you and send you the more information about the references? We will be happy to help. Now, Kok Keong Lo from Fujitsu Malaysia, it says, some SD-WAN has the same feature as Allot, bandwidth management, WAN optimization. How do we position Allot in this environment? Well, this is a fantastic question. I will say that I will have a slide for it, but on our platform I cannot share this information. But actually, it's not when SD-WAN says that they have the same features as Allot, actually they are forgetting the most important limitation they have. As I mentioned in my presentation, SD-WAN actually it's a connectivity solution. What they do is a next generation routing, but it's a router after all. So what does it mean? It means that a router, so if you name the technology, okay, name it. So if it's one of the SD-WAN vendors, actually they are not able to do packet shaping or traffic shaping on the inbound connections. And if you know, inbound traffic is most of the majority of the internet traffic. So actually, SD-WAN cannot do quality of service or bandwidth management to the most important traffic. So actually, their technology is only useful to do connectivity. That's why all the customers that we have now that they are deploying SD-WAN and they are Allot customers, they keep Allot because SD-WAN cannot do it. So actually, their limitation is simple. They cannot do traffic bandwidth management, okay? So they don't have the same features. They cannot do traffic management, as simple as that. Now, we have Sanjeev from Texas Services that asks, most of the times we get countered by customers saying that the next generation firewalls address most of the capabilities of Allot. How do we tackle that? Oh, great question. And I will also say that I have a slide for it, because actually, SD-WAN or next generation firewall, they are complementary. So what does it mean? It means that, as I showed you before, okay, for instance, if you want, let's say that you have deploy, if you have the network architecture, okay, normally, let's take the example of the WAN, okay? So the WAN has, let's say, multiple or hundreds or thousands of remote offices. So if you want to do or apply dynamic policies per remote office from the central location, and from each remote office you have different, let's say, rules per application per remote office, okay, you can have like 50,000 or 100,000 policies that a next generation firewall cannot do. So, okay, next generation firewall just to control the internet, yeah, they will have the same capabilities, but actually you need to move the conversation from the internet to back into the network. So if you want to control or to do traffic acceleration to the WAN or the SD-WAN that you have, the firewall cannot do. If the firewall wants to give you visibility for the core of the network, okay, so for instance, nowadays, customers want to see what is the traffic that goes into the virtual machines on the data center. So if you want to do that with the firewall, you cannot. You actually need to change the complete routing infrastructure and send all the traffic to the firewall. And now, that the firewall used to handle 1 gigabit of traffic, and now suddenly you need to handle 100 gigs of traffic for this visibility. Okay, so you need to change the firewall, and actually that will cost you way more than have the better network intelligence that Allot. Actually, we are running out of time, so I will be happy. I know that you have many questions here, but more or less they are the same. So, well, I will keep in mind all of them. So, well, I hope you registered your email addresses so we can actually, an Allot representative will talk to you and we can take this offline. Okay, so actually it was a great time with you guys, and I hope I answered most of the questions. Seth?
Yeah, that was a fantastic Q&A session. I thought that was equally as entertaining and interesting as the rest of the webinar. And I know that a lot of people have questions. We can get to those offline. We've got them all listed here. And if you have any other questions, you can send them in an email or to the Contact Us form, which you see on your screen. And remember, at the bottom of the page, there are some links there where you can contact us. There's collateral and links to some more information relating to this. So if you want to get that before you go home now, or you are home, that would be great. And we look forward to seeing you in future Allot webinars. I hope you have a great day and make the best of the current situation. Okay, all the best.
Thank you, Seth.
Thank you, Eduardo.